Okay, so we are live. Hey, everyone, it's Nick here from Childcare Business Growth. I hope you guys are having a super end to your day, a super start to your day, or a super middle of your day, wherever you guys are watching this around the world. So I am very grateful to be joined by a very good friend of mine, Ben McAdam. Ben, I'm not going to do you any justice in terms of your background. I would love for you, if you don't mind, to give us a quick intro in terms of who you are and why people should particularly pay attention to this session, particularly the time of year where we're at right now.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. My name is Ben. Thank you, Nick, for having me. Great to see you all here. So what I do is I call myself a profits coach and virtual CFO, which means I'm the guy who helps you use your numbers to grow your business and make it more profitable, and to stop worrying about what the numbers mean. And maybe I should know what a P&L is. I'm the guy that helps you with those things. I've sold 2 of my own businesses. I'm currently investing in businesses. I have a podcast I present. I've helped over 1,000 business owners with this stuff. So I know a thing or two, and hopefully I can share that with you guys in this session today.
And I think, so just to give some context here, Ben, you work with clients all over the world, don't you? I know there are some clients that we both support that you work with, and they vary dramatically, don't they? But ultimately, what we're going to talk about here today is relevant to all different types of businesses, isn't it? Just because sometimes you have people watch these podcasts or they listen, they say, well, that's not relevant to me because it's not my industry. But I know you're very diverse in terms of just focusing on multiple different types of companies here, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got clients in the US, the UK, Europe. There's a few of them in Asia, a couple of them in Australia, where I'm from. G'day. I had one in New Zealand for a while. Been all over the place. And for me, I like a lot of different types of businesses. The variety is really enjoyable. And I find that like the fundamentals of the numbers are fairly similar across a lot of business types and a lot of different places. The different, countries differ based on their tax rules and when their end of tax year is, but like the fundamentals of how to make a business more profitable that's what I like about it, is it's objective and consistent. It's not just like, oh, I feel like today I'm going to do this to make more profit. It's like, nope, here's what the numbers say. That's what you're going to do.
Yeah, and you and I have had lots of conversations about this, and I've appreciated every single one of them, and that's why we wanted to bring you on today to tell everyone, because obviously we're coming up to end of year, and I know you and I we had a discussion about this in terms of, well, this is a perfect time to kind of talk to people and tell them, what opportunities are there right now to be looking at in terms of the end of year. So what's your kind of thoughts on this, Ben? What should people really be paying attention to right now?
Yeah, so Christmas is the big thing on the horizon for everybody. For the people in the US, you got your end of tax year, and there's some things we can talk about there. But Christmas and the new year, and thinking about your goals, and everybody thinking about doing things differently. This transition, this part of the year, tends to be a great time to sell, but also not a great time to sell, depending on your industry, depending on where you are. It could be that all your customers are like, nah, I'm going to take off 6 weeks. Like some industries here in Australia, it's our summertime. So it's kind of like, well, there's Christmas, and let's take off the first 2 weeks of January, or let's be really slow. Let's not make any big decisions. Let's kind of take it easy. So some industries are a bit like that, but fewer than you think. So one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of business owners, and I fell into this trap as well, is thinking that, okay, it's around Christmas, no one's going to buy anything. No one's going to be buying anything from me, or it's going to be really hard to get people to buy things, or no one's thinking about this stuff. And quite a lot of businesses and business models can actually make a fairly significant amount of money around this time, and it can be one of the most profitable months of the year if you don't kind of get in your own way and say, oh no, let's slow down. Everyone's slowing down. Let's not even try. So that's probably one of the big things that I want to make sure is that, don't take your foot off the gas just because you think it might slow down. I mean, if it does slow down and you've proven that in previous years, then fine, but you might be surprised.
Yeah, I think particularly with our industry as well, where we are in terms of childcare, all over, we tend to find this mindset where everyone thinks, oh, no one's looking for childcare right now. They're going to leave it till January. And, I totally disagree with that. That actually, parents are now planning to think about, well, what do we need to do to get in line for January? Yes, but then there's all this thought of, well, but they're going to be spending money on their kids and they're not focusing on what we're doing right now. And I think it's a really important point that we should be looking at as an industry as a whole to be aware of. Just because it's coming a Christmas period does not mean people aren't looking for their childcare options come January. And there's one that I'm going to share, if you don't mind, really quick, from a client of ours. She actually does this where she does she gets 20 or 25 of her families to pay the whole year up front in December to give them tax breaks. So I don't know, what's your thought? Anything you've come across like that? I know we didn't plan to talk about that, but it was just something that popped into my head right now. Do you see that happen a lot as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about getting people to think about the childcare decisions and getting on wait lists and prepaying the first month or paying an application fee or something. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of places, a lot of parents I talk to all over the world, because a number of my friends and clients are parents, and there's long queues and waiting lists for preschools, and so everyone's starting to think now that it's not like, oh, I got to think about the preschool that my child's going into next week. It's like, oh, I've got to think really far ahead about this thing. So just being open and advertising, like taking names for 2024, I see it around here on a lot of schools, and I've seen it in the US as well. Like, kindergarten enrollments for next year is advertised like 6 months before kindergarten actually starts. And you could do a similar thing with a preschool and get application fees and potentially first month fees to secure your spot. And then you, the childcare business owner, have a lovely Christmas break with a whole bunch of money sitting in the bank and a bunch of enrollments. Like that's a nice, secure feeling to have in the holidays. And what you said about tax breaks. The US end of tax year is coming up, and for those of you in different countries, you can just save this information for later. I usually recommend to clients to do a sales push with the end of tax year, because get your tax deduction now or lock in the prices before we put them up, kind of a promotion to like get the people off the fence that you've been talking to and to get people to take action. And then also do prepayments yourself to save money. So you go to someone that you use all the time and you say, hey, I want to prepay 6 months or 12 months if you give me a 10% discount. And so you doing the prepayment, get a discount, and you get the tax deduction sooner. And you lock in the service of that person. They can't raise your prices if you prepay them for 12 months. They can't raise your prices for at least 12 months too.
Yeah. So we see that a lot, actually. A lot of our clients are doing this now where maybe they plan to open a new location next year. They get a lot of their families to prepay, use the tax break, and then they've got that cash reserve there to be able to get everything done that they need to do, which is awesome from their perspective too. So tell us some of the commonalities, some of the common things you would advise clients in any industry, just generally as a whole, coming up to the end of the year.
So don't take your foot off the gas. Do lots of sales promotions, the prepayments like we've talked about, price rises. It's a good time to think about price rises because everyone kind of expects prices to go up at the end of the year. Even Australians, our tax year is June 30, and in the UK it's the 4th of April. Even with a tax year there, people expect prices in January to go up, partly because we all use American software and services and things, and they're all putting their prices up in that time. So people are a bit more open to price rises then. So it's a good time to do it. So think about a price rise, especially if your prices are a bit low or lower than your competitors, or you're not profitable. That's one way to do it. Another way is thinking about do a review of the year and then think about what you want next year. Because everyone's kind of in this mindset of what's your New Year's resolution? What's your plan for next year? Everyone's kind of open to that, including yourself. And you can talk to your friends about it, talk to your coaches or the community. What went well? What didn't go well? What did you learn? What do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? What do you want to try? What experiments did you try this year that you need to stop because they're not working out? And what do you want out of the next year? Like income, working hours, stress levels. Do you want to open another location? Do you want to move to a bigger location? What is it you want? And then what will you need to do to actually make that come into reality. So review and goal planning, it's the perfect time of year for doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, awesome. And in terms of, I know one of the guides you talk a lot about is the, looking for that hidden profits in your business. One of the things I think we are guilty of as an industry, I know my wife and I definitely were when we first started out. We didn't have monthly P&Ls. We didn't, it was literally, let's wait for the handwritten accounts at the end of the year. And it was so old fashioned. What's your kind of thoughts or take on what's the bare minimum a modern business should have in place right now on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis?
Yeah, so having someone else do your bookkeeping, you can do it yourself, but really I'd rather you learned how to grow your business rather than learned how to be a bookkeeper. So having the bookkeeping done for you and being able to look at a P&L and balance sheet every month within the first 5 or 10 days of the month, so that you can see, okay, what happened last month and what do we want to do differently next month? As opposed to the end of the year, you look and you go, oh, I forgot I was still paying for that thing. Let me cancel it. And it's 12 months later. Whereas if you're looking every month, you could save yourself a lot of money. And also, the numbers are wonderfully objective. So you might have had this experience, you're driving your car, you think you're going the speed limit, you're just looking at the other cars or thinking or listening to a podcast or a presentation with an Aussie guy speaking. And you're driving the car, think you're going the speed limit, and you look down like, oh, crap, I'm speeding, or whoops, I'm like under the speed limit and I need to speed up a bit. That's what can happen in our business. It's like we're so busy looking at all the things that we've got to handle that we don't have that objective check-in of like, how are things actually going? We just kind of look at the bank account and we're like, oh yeah, that's not panic station. So, I won't worry about what's going on there. I've really got to sort out this sick child or the sick team member, or I've got to do this repair, and then we've got this audit and the insurances need to renew, and you forget what's really going on. And so it's like when you're driving a car, you look down at the dashboard to see like, how's the car going? Are we running out of oil? Is the temperature going up and the engine's going to explode? Are we going the right speed? And then you can look back. And so you need that once a month at least to look at your numbers and make changes.
Yeah, I think we've been doing it now for probably 6 or 7 years minimum. And I think just the difference of looking at that every single month and also then comparing it to the last 3 months, how we do it? What are those budgets? I'm really setting that benchmark. What are the common pitfalls or kind of mistakes you see besides people not doing this on a month-by-month basis? Some of the, the clients you deal with vary in size dramatically. What kind of commonalities, what kind of things do you see that people those mistakes they make?
I think it's a big mistake is not changing the report so that it is more understandable and highlights the important things for you. That's so right. If there's bookkeeping software, it'll come with like this standard layout. If you work with a bookkeeper or a tax accountant, they'll do the layout in a way that works most efficiently for them or that they prefer. But that may not necessarily be the way that your brain works. And so you can change it. And generally I find it needs to be changed from like whatever the templates is in the software. It's a good start, but like every single business, we want to put a bit more detail into it and highlight different things and group things a little bit differently. And then you can look at it and it actually makes a bit more sense. And you don't just go look through and go, okay, yeah, I've done my duty. And then off we go. It's like you look at it and you actually understand how your business is going.
Yeah. And from my perspective as well, I think the common thing we see in most of the clients that we work with right now is that the biggest thing for the industry as a whole in childcare is around how much are we spending on staff to our turnover. And I think one of the conversations I often have with people was 2 big ones we talk about in terms of finances. Number one is how much do you spend on your staff in terms of how much income is being spent on your staff? And also then is how much are you missing out on in terms of empty spots that are not filled right now? And those 2 figures are, to some people, it's really, they're shocked to hear those numbers. And right now, the industry average just in the US is, 50% of your 50 to 52% is currently spent on staff to turnover. UK is anywhere between 48 to 51. So again, if you look, if you're looking at this, guys, you should be looking at a benchmark against that to see how you compare. But I've done calls with clients recently, or potential people to work with us, where you've got maybe 40, 50 spots empty, and you're losing $40,000-$50,000 a month in lost revenue just because you've got those empty spots. And it's kind of a light bulb moment going off, we better do something about that. So what have do you come across similar scenarios like that? Is it kind of like light bulb moments when people put this in place, or?
Yeah, I think it tacks on well to what we were talking about with the P&L and looking at the numbers. Is like there's more numbers than just the bookkeeping reports that are critical to the business. So, your marketing and sales metrics, like how many people inquire versus how many people actually sign up and pay a deposit, or, put their kid in your childcare center. None of that's on the P&L, but that's an important thing to check, because in a lot of cases, like you said, you just got to shine a light on the numbers, and people are like, oh, wow, that's the big thing I need to fix in my business.
Yeah.
And if I just focus my energies on that, my income explodes and business goes up, and everything is happy. You can, like I said, change the layout of the reports so that all your staffing costs are in the section called cost of goods sold, and there's a subtotal under it called gross profit. So it's revenue minus your staff costs, and then there's gross profit. And so you can use that to keep an eye on that ratio every month of staff to turnover.
Yeah.
And then the capacity issue is like, you can't really tell by looking at any of your financial numbers or even your bank account. So it's like this third area that you need to keep an eye on. And filling up capacity is an important consideration, because, in a childcare business, you've got the physical space. It's not like you can, it's like, oh, okay, this is a bit of a slow year, so I'm just going to like chop out this section of my childcare center, and I'm not going to pay rent on that anymore. It's like money you're already spending, and it's a wasted opportunity if it's not filled. And if it's something of like 40, 50 spots, $40,000 to $50,000 a month of missed revenue, it's like, well, in that case, let's say $40,000 of revenue, 50% of that might go to your staff. That's $20,000 of extra gross profit that you can spend on growth projects, your overheads, marketing to build your center up, and your own pay and profits, like $20,000 a month there. Well, that's the case, like, okay, it's worth spending a bit of money to try and solve this problem. What can we do to solve this problem? It's 40 spots. Like, this is massive action time.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen businesses sometimes where they're missing out on 1 to 2 million through one location, just simply because those spots aren't filled. And I know people are going to watch this and say, but there's a staff recruitment crisis. There is to a certain point. But look, with the greatest respect to most people watching this, if you're slightly off topic, but if you're doing the same as everyone else in terms of staff recruitment, with the greatest respect, you're not going to get any different results. Okay. There are people out there that are crushing it with staff recruitment right now because they are putting all the effort they need to put into it to resolve that staff recruitment crisis. And unfortunately, I think we tend to go with the trends and just say, well, everyone else is having that problem, so we must be having the same problem too. But
yes,
it's like Ben said, there's tons of opportunities here. So Ben, from your perspective of what should people be looking at right now? You talk about hidden profit. So what types of things should people be looking at this side of the year? So we've talked about touching on potentially offering families to pay upfront for the 12 months to save on some tax. What other opportunities might there be that they potentially could be missing out on right now?
I like what you said about thinking differently to everybody else. I think that's anyone who's ever made a lot of money has always done things differently.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, and it's been the case for me as well. I don't know anyone who does things the way that I do them and I make a decent amount of money from it. If I was to do it the way that everyone else does it, it's like I would be earning about 20% of what I currently am. So it's worth thinking about, what are you doing to attract parents and get children into your childcare center? And what are you doing to attract great staff members? They should be like two different marketing funnels, if you like, two different funnels, like trying to get leads in the top and then filter people through sales calls / interviews, and then having the right people sign up. Because if you only do the bare minimum or what everyone else is doing, like no one's going to pay you any more money for that. Whereas like if you're a great place to work, then great people are going to want to work for you, and they're not going to want the earth. They're not going to want to be paid quite nearly as much as a place that they're just putting up with to work at. So like profit on both ends.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question on this one? Because this is a big one for me that I think there is such a misunderstanding. Okay. I'll give you an example. So I'll speak to some businesses that say, right, there's a local provider, for example, we're able to pay $15, $16 an hour, whereas the local provider down the road is paying $19, $20 an hour. Okay. They're bigger chains, they can do that. And this is my personal opinion, and I'd like to hear what your thought is on this as well. Do you think the mindset is that because they just don't understand their numbers enough?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's part of it. I think it's also something I've noticed, something I used to think of, is we think that the secret to success is paying as little as possible. When really there's so many occasions where you need to put more money in than is reasonable in order to get to the next levels. Or so, for example, you've got 40 or 50 empty spots in your childcare center, and there's $20,000 of gross profit you could potentially capture there. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to wait, or are you going to spend some money on marketing or put some effort in to potentially get it? And for the first little while, that money, you're going to look at that and go, it's a waste of money. This isn't working. I've only filled 3 spots. I'm really going to stop spending this money because it's not really working. Because it's like a scarcity mindset or just being cheap. I've done in the past. When really, like, to get to that next level, to get to your goals, like, you're going to have to do things that don't seem to make sense or don't pay you back immediately. You need to think a bit more long term. And so it could be that, in the case of that 15 an hour versus 19 an hour, the big chain down the road, it could be that you do pay $19 an hour or even $20 an hour, and you get the better people. And because you've got the better people, you get families lining up outside the door on a wait list, and they don't care if your prices are a little bit higher because you're the quality local thing, not the impersonal big chain. But it all starts with deciding to pay more than $15 an hour, which is really hard.
Yeah. And how do you encourage people, though, to deal with that? Because in my simple head, obviously not coming from that financial background, it's okay, what are we missing out on right now in terms of lost revenue, first of all? What are we missing out on because staff turnover is high, because we're getting lower quality and because we're paying less? And it's that understanding of the financial implications of the lost revenue, but also the cost to replace that member of staff that actually wasn't performing in the first place, because you may be paying them significantly less because, they knew it's the industry or whatever it is. Have you got any different thoughts or ideas around that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's short-term versus long-term focus. Most of us think short-term. When we're first starting our business, everything's really stressful. It's got to kind of work. Every week we're doubting whether it's going to last the next week or the next month or the next quarter or the next 12 months. We're not really sure it's going to happen. So we're stressed, we're panicked, there's a lot going on, and we make short-term decisions when we're in that headspace.
Yeah. And
we do things like, okay, there's somebody who's great and wants 19 an hour, and there's someone who's like, okay, but they're 15 an hour. Well, I'm going to go with a cheaper option.
Yeah.
Which is going to help me in the short term, because I know I'm going to be able to pay this person comfortably. I'm not going to freak out about it every week or month when I'm doing their pays. But that $19 an hour person can lead to much bigger benefits over the longer term. So it's short-term discomfort to get a long-term gain is the big switch. And this has nothing to do with numbers. It has to do with what numbers you're focusing on, where you're putting your focus. So as you said, the cost of replacing someone that's too cheap and was never the right fit in the first place, you're not necessarily thinking about that cost that's in the future. You're thinking, okay, 15 an hour, 19 an hour, 15 an hour is going to cost me very little over the next few weeks. Well, I might as well try them. And then all the justifications you start making up in your head. When really, if you can switch your focus from short-term thinking into long-term thinking, and thought, what's the benefit to me in the long term? What's the cost to me in the long term? And then take the action that is best for you in the long term.
Yeah.
That's the big shift. And having your eye on the numbers and calculating what these costs are, and being able to see month by month when you're looking at your P&L that things are going in the right direction over the long term like you thought, all of that is really helpful for you to make those brave, courageous steps to focus on long-term benefit, even though it might be some short-term pain.
And I know what people are thinking now off the back of this. I know there will be, the next question will be, well, yeah, it's all well and good me paying the $19 an hour, but what about my existing team that are on the $15 or $16 an hour? Because that is a big thing in this industry. We know, we've dealt with it. We've always had that challenge. And I think from my perspective, and please give me your opinion on this, but it basically comes back down to knowing your numbers, knowing what your margin is, how much you spend on staff right now. Is it affordable to do in terms of the long run? What any different thoughts you had around that, Ben? Because it's definitely a big problem that most people have right now. Look, I'd love to go and pay $19 an hour, but my existing team are on $15 an hour. I can't cope with now increasing everyone else to $15, $19 an hour. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So if we take the longer term frame, we might think, okay, where do we want our team to be? What kind of quality level of team do we want? And what are they worth? And what are the standards that we hold them to? And you want all of your team to be like $19 an hour worth people that, have level of experience and skills and are great at the job and professional, all that stuff. You want everybody up there, because if everybody's up there, then you're never without customers, because your parents are so happy. They tell the other parents you almost don't need to spend money on marketing. You just need to have enough marketing so they know how to find you and they remember you when, they get that glowing referral. Like, oh, little Bobby is having such a great time. These people are amazing. I'm so lucky I found them. These are the kind of things I say about the preschool my daughter's at. It's amazing. So you want everybody over the longer term to be great, because there are so many big longer term benefits, the reputation in the area, everything. You want those benefits. So, okay, how do you get your existing team up to that level? Are the people you're paying $15, $16 an hour, are they actually worth $19 an hour? And as soon as they figure that out or see a job ad, they're gone and you've lost a great team member. Well, then, yeah, maybe you need to put a plan in place to get them up to a market rate. But if they're not worth $19 an hour, if they are actually not all that good, we need to put some training in place and say, okay, we're going to bring everybody up to this standard. You might have that response available when someone says, hey, I was just talking to that new team member and apparently they're getting paid $19 an hour, but I'm on 15 and I've been here for years. What gives? What's going on? I need a pay rise. You say, well, they fit all these criteria. This is the reason why I decided to pay them that much. Now, let's talk about getting you up to that level. I'm happy to invest in your training, spend time mentoring you, but I cannot pay you at that level if you're not operating at that level.
Yeah.
You can have a conversation kind of like that in your own words. It's a bit of a long answer. Is that
No, I agree. It's one of the things we've done. I think, first of all, it comes back to, number one, understanding the numbers. Where are you at in terms of your staff to turnover? But equally as well, put in that performance-based pay and training-based pay in place. We've done that with a lot of clients that have maybe someone that's been with them for 15, 20 years, but maybe they're just doing the bare minimum just to get by. We're trying to, we're encouraging clients, look, let's put this training academy in place where they got to go through this to get to this level, this to get to this level, and eventually over a period of time, you get them up to that point. But I think the big barrier for people right now is this issue around, I cannot afford to be spending that kind of money. And it just comes down to people knowing their basic numbers. So Ben, I could talk to you all day about this, but if you were to kind of summarize, I know we're going to give people a link where they can get some really cool resources that you provide. What would be, I don't know, your top couple of tips that you would give people right now in terms of looking for some hidden profit in the business, or, closing out the end of the year, coming into the end of December right now?
So summarizing it, it's the end of year. do a sales push, do a promotion push, reach out to your families, ask for referrals. You know, it's actually a good time of year, and you can say that to them. It's like, I know you're thinking about Christmas, but next year is right around the corner. If you want in, let me know, and we'll put you on the wait list. So do a sales push. Think about doing a price rise. If it's been a while since you've done one, you could probably creep your prices up a little bit. No one will care. A few people might say something, but they're not actually going to leave or complain, really. So think about a price rise. If it's end of tax year for you, if you're in the US, then think about doing some prepayments and potentially offering prepayments options for your customers, your parents. Have your bookkeeping set up so that you can look at it once a month, and also look at the other numbers that are important, like your capacity, and keep an eye on that staff turnover ratio. That's like the secret to success that not enough people are talking about. They're all about growing their revenue. I'm like, no. It's about how much you're keeping. You got to sell a profitable thing. So do all those things. It's also a good time to review goal plan, but also review your own expenses. I've got a link we talked about that you can pop on the screen at the end there.
Yeah, pop that in.
Yeah, which has got an exercise that'll help you go find thousands in hidden profit. It's the thing I do, literally step by step, what I do with all of my new clients, and you can have it for free. I highly recommend that once people sign up with you or start spending money with you, you do something that makes them really happy that they've done it. So like give a surprise bonus to your parents when they enroll your child, like you send them a book or like a gift or something. And this is the thing, the magic trick I pull to say, hey, look, I just paid for 12 months of my fees in the first 15 minutes of working together. That's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just give you guys that exercise so you can walk through it yourselves.
I will get that in the link shortly for you, just to make sure everyone gets a copy of that. So, and tell us, Ben, if people are interested in potentially finding out more to work with you. I know there are lots of clients I work with right now that already work with you. You provide, like a CFO role to them. So for people that maybe are not familiar with the type of work you do, just give us a really quick summary of what you do in terms of going in to help with the business. And it's regardless wherever they are around the world. You work with clients all over. Tell everyone a little bit, if you don't mind, about what you do in terms of helping them grow.
Sure. So I said at the beginning, I'm a profits coach and virtual CFO, help you with profits growth and clarity around the numbers. But really what I do is I help you hit your goals. So for a lot of people, it's a financial goal. They want to get out of debt. They want to earn more. They want their business to be worth more, and they want to sell it. They want the business to grow. They want to open new locations. They want to expand. They want to get investment. There's some goal that they have, and it's not going as fast as they would like, or they're stuck, or they're going backwards. And so they reach out to me and we have a call, and I say, all right, where do you actually want to get to? And we put together a plan to get you there, and I coach you along the way with support. So it's like business coaching support on all the different steps required. If you don't know how to hire someone or how to run a good hiring process, that might be one of the things we cover. If you need a good bookkeeper, I help you set one of those up, and set up this cadence where you're looking at your numbers in the past and in the future once a month, so that you can make the decisions and focus on the right things that will get you to your goals faster than you thought possible.
Yeah. And I think there's probably one thing I'm going to touch on. I've probably avoided numbers a lot in the past, and which is the wrong thing to do, guys. So for those of you watching this, do not pay attention to me saying that. But the point I would say there is that when you start to look at them and you start to really pay attention to them, it's very interesting. It becomes very exciting to see how you do against those budgets every single month. If you set those, you've looked at the last 3 months, you've set some kind of budgets in place. We can't go over this. And obviously, if you're under budget every month, your profit margin's bigger. And it's great to be able to do that. One last one, Ben. I don't know what your thoughts are around. I know you've talked a lot about different books out there. One of the ones I've talked about in the past is Profit First. I know you have a different thought around that particular book. We've spoken about it previously. Are there any other kind of, if you were to give someone any kind of head start ideas to start to look at their numbers, any particular good books you've come across in terms of general business numbers?
I was just saying to someone the other day that I feel like I should write my own, because whenever I give recommendations, I'm like, read this book, but only this part, and ignore that other thing that they say. Yeah.
So I remember you and I spoke about Profit First, but that you've got a different thought process on that. And there are some of the great ones out there. So what would your suggestions be to get started? Obviously, we're going to give them this great guide you've got. Is there anything else you would kind of give them, potential reading material over the Christmas break that people potentially could be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. So for all that I don't think the other alternatives are as good, or to prescribe to people, I think there's a lot that can be gained from reading slightly outside of what is the ideal. So Profit First is actually a good book to read. Like if you're someone who's super allergic to numbers and hate your bookkeeping and all that, start with Profit First. That's not a bad one. There's also Simple Numbers is another good book. There's Financial Intelligence for Entrepreneurs, which was written before everyone realized, wait, we're supposed to have 2 simple words for our book title. That's a good one as well. There's also like The Barefoot Investor. There's some Dave Ramsey stuff as well. Like what I mainly want to give here is a gateway drug to get you hooked, or at least get you less afraid. So, you just dip your toe in the water. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not bad. And then you can put a leg in the pool, and then, you're in. I was one of those kids that would never like jump into a pool. I have to like ease my way into it. So yeah, I just want to like get you started on the path and trying out each of those different books. Read the sample chapter on Kindle or something, or on the author's websites, and like whichever one kind of like, oh, this isn't too bad. Just like go a bit further.
Yeah, awesome. Ben, I'm extremely grateful. I think there's lots of awesome value in there. Make sure, guys, you go and get the download that Ben's given you. There's some great value in there. And of course, if you're looking to take your financial management to a whole nother level, make sure you reach out and connect with Ben directly. Ben, I'm super grateful as always. And what we'll do, hopefully, maybe next quarter, we'll touch base again, see what's happening, see if there's any big changes going on the market. And you can keep us abreast of everything that's going on with you and your developments too. Hopefully, there'll be a book in the pipeline by that point too.
Yes. I'm thinking it might be on my goals list for next year. Thanks for the nudge. There you go.
So you heard it here first now. It's up to you, Ben. Get it going. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you got lots of value from this. If you've got any questions or comments, and always drop them down below. We are going to be doing an end of year webinar shortly, which is actually next Thursday. We're going to be talking about planning out for the whole year for 2024 and reviewing the last 12 months as well, covering everything, not only just to do financials. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll post the link somewhere for you guys to get a copy of that too. All right, Ben, super grateful for your time as always, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
That's great. Bye, guys.